and the whole skein wound itself smoothly off in the most surprising manner, and the prince, turning to Graciosa, asked if there was nothing else that she wished him to do for her, and if the time would never come when she would wish him for his own sake. "Don't be vexed with me, Percinet," she said. "I am unhappy enough without that." "But why should you be unhappy, my princess?" cried he. "Only come with me, and we shall be as happy as the day is long together." "But suppose you get tired of me?" said Graciosa. The prince was so grieved at this want of confidence that he left her without another word. The Queen was in such a hurry to punish Graciosa that she thought the sun would never set, and indeed it was before the appointed time that she came with her 4 fairies, and as she fitted the 3 keys into the locks, she said, "I'll venture to say that the idle minx has not done anything at all. She prefers to sit with her hands before her to keep them white." But as soon as she entered, Graciosa presented her with the ball of thread in perfect order, so that she had no fault to find, and could only pretend to discover that it was soiled, for which imaginary fault she gave Graciosa a blow on each cheek that made her white and pink skin turn green and yellow. And then she sent her back to be locked into the garret once more. Then the Queen sent for the fairy again, and scolded her furiously. "Don't make such a mistake again. Find me something that it will be quite impossible for her to do," she said. So the next day the fairy appeared with a huge barrel full of the feathers of all sorts of birds. There were nightingales, canaries, goldfinches, linnets, tomtits, parrots, owls, sparrows, doves, ostriches, bustards, peacocks, larks, partridges, and everything else that you can think of. These feathers were all mixed up in such confusion that the birds themselves could not have chosen out their own. "Here," said the fairy, "is a little task which it will take all your prisoner's skill and patience to accomplish. Tell her to pick out and lay in a separate heap the feathers of each bird. She would need to be a fairy to do it." The Queen was more than delighted at the thought of the despair this task would cause the princess. She sent for her, and, with the same threats as before, locked her up with the 3 keys, ordering that all the feathers should be sorted by sunset. Graciosa set to work at once, but before she had taken out a dozen feathers, she found that it was perfectly impossible to know one from another. "Ah, well," she sighed, "the Queen wishes to kill me, and if I must die, I must. I cannot ask Percinet to help me again, for if he really loved me he would not wait till I called him. He would come without that." "I am here, my Graciosa," cried Percinet, springing out of the barrel where he had been hiding. "How can you still doubt that I love you with all my heart?" Then he gave 3 strokes of his wand upon the barrel, and all the feathers flew out in a cloud and settled down in neat little separate heaps all round the room. "What should I do without you, Percinet?" said Graciosa gratefully. But still she could not quite make up her mind to go with him and leave her father's kingdom forever. So she begged him to give her more time to think of it, and he had to go away disappointed once more. When the wicked Queen came at sunset, she was amazed and infuriated to find the task done. However, she complained that the heaps of feathers were badly arranged, and for that the princess was beaten and sent back to her garret. Then the Queen sent for the fairy once more, and scolded her until she was fairly terrified, and promised to go home and think of another task for Graciosa, worse than either of the others. At the end of 3 days she came back again, bringing with her a box. "Tell your slave," said she, to carry this wherever you please, but on no account to open it. She will not be able to help doing so, and then you will be quite satisfied with the result." So the Queen came to Graciosa and said, "Carry this box to my castle, and place it upon the table in my own room, but I forbid you on pain of death to look at what it contains." Graciosa set out, wearing her little cap and wooden shoes, and the old cotton frock. But even in this disguise she was so beautiful that all the passers-by wondered who she could be. She had not gone far before the heat of the sun and the weight of the box tired her down so much that she sat to rest in the shade of a little wood which lay on one side of a green meadow. She was carefully holding the box upon her lap, when she suddenly felt the greatest desire to open it. "What could possibly happen if I did?" she said to herself. "I should not take anything out. I should only just see what was there." And without farther hesitation she lifted the cover. Instantly out came swarms of little men and women, no taller than her finger, and scattered themselves all over the meadow, singing and dancing, and playing the merriest games, so that at first Graciosa was delighted and watched them with much amusement. But presently, when she was rested and wished to go on her way, she found that, do what she would, she could not get them back into their box. If she chased them into the meadow they fled into the wood, and if she pursued them into the wood they dodged round trees and behind sprigs of moss, and with peals of elfin laughter scampered back again into the meadow. At last, weary and terrified, she sat down and cried. "'Tis my own fault," she said sadly. "Percinet, if you can still care for such an imprudent princess, do come and help me once more." Immediately Percinet stood before her. "Ah, princess," he said, "but for the wicked queen I fear you would never think of me at all." "Indeed I should," said Graciosa. "I am not so ungrateful as you think. Only wait a little, and I believe I shall love you quite dearly." Percinet was pleased at this, and with one stroke of his wand compelled all the wilful little people to come back to their places in the box, and then rendering the princess invisible, he took her with him in his chariot to the castle. When the princess presented herself at the door, and said that the queen had ordered her to place the box in her own room, the governor laughed heartily at the idea. "No, no, no, my little shepherdess," said he, "this is not the place for you. No wooden shoes have ever been over that floor yet." Then Graciosa begged him to give her a written message telling the queen that he had refused to admit her. This he did, and she went back to Percinet, who was waiting for her, and they set out together for the palace. You may imagine that they did not go the shortest way, but the princess did not find it too long, and before they parted she had promised that if the queen was still cruel to her, and tried again to play her any spiteful trick, she would leave her and come to Percinet forever. When the queen saw her returning, she fell upon the fairy, whom she had kept with her, and pulled her hair and scratched her face, and would really have killed her if a fairy could be killed. And when the princess presented the letter and the box, she threw them both upon the fire without opening them, and looked very much as if she would like to throw the princess after them. However, what she really did do was to have a great hole as deep as a well dug in her garden, and the top of it covered with a flat stone. Then she went and walked near it, and said to Graciosa and all her ladies who were with her, "I am told that a great treasure lies under that stone. Let us see if we can lift it." So they all began to push and pull at it, and Graciosa amongst the others, which was just what the queen wanted, for as soon as the stone was lifted high enough, she gave the princess a push which sent her down to the bottom of the well, and then the stone was let fall again, and there she was a prisoner. Graciosa felt that now indeed she was hopelessly lost. Surely not even Percinet could find her in the heart of the earth.
This is like being buried alive.